from my perspective, it's a respected profession, and there's no other profession that you can get that much internal gratification from getting a group of kids from point A to point B. That's the biggest reason why I want to go into teaching. Ambitious.
Why ambitious?
Because with the way that education is going now, especially with my subject, it's not going to be the easiest to get into the door. And just like any other business, education is a business in which you need to know people to get certain places. You have to make a name for yourself, especially someone coming out of college. It's not going to be the easiest thing to do, and especially now, it's not going to be the easiest thing to do. But you have to do it. So ambitious would be the best word I would use. Yes, I have applied to 13 districts so far, all in San Antonio. They take about an hour to an hour and a half to complete each one. Uh, because of the situation in Austin, most new applicants aren't going to hear anything until June. And even if that, most districts are either on a hiring freeze or firing people, which is not really the best news to get at the moment. I would be more scared if I was an English or history major or some other subject in which you can either be a teacher or there are not many other opportunities for you. With if after June um, things aren't going well, I do have a non-teaching resume and a non-teaching cover letter that I will start to send out to people in a massive amount of resumes, so I could see where I could get outside of education. If any society lowers their standard for education, they lower their standard for other things as well. Uh, it's a really bad thing that they're doing, extremely bad thing, because the later consequences they have not, I think, thought about. But I understand the need for it. I don't agree with it whatsoever because there are other areas where they could take money from, in which they choose not to. Uh, it's going to have further consequences, and knowing that we are falling behind other countries that value education more than we do, it's not something to be happy about. Well, one, they need to find a new source of revenue. Two, they need to tap into the rainy day fund. And I understand cutting back some money, but the amount of money that they're cutting back is massive, which they shouldn't. I think if those, especially the rainy day fund, if they tap into that, at least for not necessarily just this year, maybe in the next 3 years until our economy gets back into where it should be, then we could balance it out. But then again, these cuts like these in education have happened before, so we will get back on track. It's just coming from a new teacher's perspective and coming from someone who is in education, it's not the most happiest news to get. In terms of our country, I think we need to have higher standards. I think we need to send more money to education and not as much money into defense, not as much money into Medicaid and Medicare, but that's a whole other situation. I, the more value a society puts into education, I think um, the higher quality of life it will have. I think the people that make the decisions, guys in Austin or guys up north in Washington, need to at some point spend a week in a classroom and then make a decision on what they think is right for us. other countries look as, and our president even said this, other countries, especially in Asia, look at their teachers as uh, country builders or people. They look at more of heroes than uh, a 9 to 5 job that is just not 9 to 5, and you get paid a minimal salary. For example, if you do the math, teachers get paid about $1.25 an hour to babysit kids for the amount of time and energy that they put into their job. More people in other businesses get paid more to do less work, and teaching is not a hard. I mean, it's not an easy job. It is a very, very, very hard job to talk to 20 teenage kids, judgmental teenage kids, for 40 minutes to 50 minutes a day, five times a day. It's not easy. Because you take money away from them, you take the resources, you in turn take away the motivation that they had to succeed, and you get school after school to close, and um, failing schools, and it's gonna have a ripple effect, and people just don't understand that. No, but then again, I think that going on strike is not the best thing to do, because at that point they're thinking about themselves, which I completely understand. And with education, you kind of have to take the back seat for your kids. So to go on strike is understandable because you're mad and you want some change, but it's not the best thing to do, and you shouldn't lose your license over it. Then again, you sign a contract saying that if you do such a thing, you might lose your license. So I completely understand why. I don't agree with it though. Sad as an educator, but with any movie, it's going to be edited to a certain uh, agenda. The movie had an agenda, and it made that agenda very clear. And me being someone who pays attention to the education situation, I completely embrace the movie and agree with the movie. But as an educated person, I understood that the movie had an agenda. And for every school that is failing, there's two or three that are actually doing really good with what they have. Um, it's some of the hardest days that I've had and some of the best days that I've had. The best days are when you come back from being sick and your kids are like, "Where have you been, Mr. Cabrera?" It's an internal gratification. It's something else to see that your kids are getting um, what you're telling them from point A to point B, and they make good grades on their tests. You know that your kids got it, and that's a good feeling. There are days where they talk back, and there are days where they're having bad days, and days where they just don't turn in stuff when they're supposed to. As a person who teaches what may be considered a fine art, um, you take away the kids' chance to be creative. You're taking away, to me, their chance to be successful. I understand the importance of math and science and the core values, but if you can't give a kid some sort of ownership in their work and some sort of ownership in the school, then you take away so much more for that kid. It is a devastating thing if it continues to go down the road that it will. I hope that it doesn't, but the way that it's going now, it will. And being from someone who teaches a fine art, it's bad. For example, debate. Kids who participate in debate are proven to have higher scores during testing and succeed better in their other classes. If any advice that I would give a new teacher is to pick your battles. and to have patience, because if you don't have patience and you don't know which battles to pick, um, you're going to stress yourself out more than you should. And I've learned that clearly this in the last 4 months. But then again, there are some days where you go to school and it's not work. It's you're having fun with these kids. You're teaching them something new, and it's that internal gratification that is the greatest feeling in the world.